is predominantly not scary, and they're ringing alarm bells. I wonder if that's why the reaction, the rebellion, is getting more extreme, because actually the people who want to rebel against this are saying you only react when it's scary.
Yes, I mean, because the truth is these two elements cannot coexist. They can't. That those people waving the Palestinian flag, we know what they want, right? The people waving the British flag, we know for the most part what they want. These two are not going to coexist peacefully. So when you see the majority of people, and it is the majority of people who would come out waving the British flag on the streets of the United Kingdom, that is a threat to the current order in a way that these, Palestinian flags are not and seen. Now, just to push another example of this so it's better understood, we have, for example, Prevent. Now, Prevent is the government's, part of its counter-terrorism system. Since 2005, there have been multiple terror attacks by Islamists on the streets of this country. Multiple. Relentless. We know about them, and we're just starting at 2005, and we were lucky the second time 2 weeks later when the copycats failed, and there have been numerous failures. We had a guy walk into a restaurant in Exeter, for example. Nobody knows about him. He walks into a restaurant in Exeter, tries to detonate a pipe bomb, and a really nasty pipe bomb, with nails and all this in it. It didn't go off properly, so he only ended up hurting himself. These kind of things over and over and over again. Since 2005, there have been 3 deadly far-right terror attacks. 3. We had the one in Finsbury Park, we had the Joe Cox killing, and we had the Ukrainian who'd only been here a week. Right? So of the 3, one of them wasn't even a Brit. But the media and the powers that be want us to believe that the threat between Islamic terror and far-right terror is even.
Why?
Because it has to play into the multicultural, everything is working and everything is...
But why when it isn't?
Because if you wake up and face the truth of this failure, you realise how deep the water is. That's why. If we wake up now, and actually, what do you do about it? What are you going to do about the fact that within the 5 million Muslims or 6 million Muslims that are living here, there are a lot of them that believe very, very problematic ideologies? What are you going to do? Within our British culture, within our way of life, within the way that things currently operate, with a network of schools and unions that are totally captured by the far left, what are you going to do?
And so what are we going to do? Because there are people waking up, as you say. So some of them are trying to take a sort of popular street approach with the Tommy Robinson movement. Some are trying to take what they see as the most respectable political approach, let's say with things like Reform UK or even the other parties like Advance and what have you.
Yeah.
But then the other side, so to speak, is doing the same with your party and the Green Party now falling into that side of things. And then you add to all of this the phenomenon of the far left, who are actually also making strange alliances in order to pursue their goals.
Yes.
And for those who are awake, it seems like what you're saying is the only option is flight, not fight. They just have to go.
Well, they have to go. Well,
the people who are awake. If the truth is that to realize this is such a rude awakening that the establishment will never do it, those individuals who are waking up to it know that they've woken up, the water is that deep, and they're drowning. But there's no lifeboat, there's no one coming to save them. Their only hope, presumably, British, Jewish, whatever, is to leave.
Well, yes and no. We have a major advantage. We have somewhere to go.
Yeah, Jews, you mean?
Yeah. This is why we saw the march that we did a few weeks ago. Because there were a lot of people out there that don't have somewhere to go. They are waking up. They are realising the situation's dire. They're facing, even if, I understand what's taking place with reform, and we're still possibly 4 years away from an election. And anything can happen in 4 years. But at the moment, obviously, we're looking at a reform that seems unstoppable, as it does at the moment. We don't know that's going to be the case in 4 years.
But does that scare you?
No, I'm not. I'm not scared of. I'm not scared of truth. I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared. I'm not a scared person. So you know, it's not in my nature. I'm looking at things. I'm trying to unravel and put the pieces together. This is the way I work. So we're both using history and using the facts and using what I can see. It's like putting together a picture. The picture may not be pleasant, but I don't feel scared by it. But yeah, I don't see anything problematic about reform. I think the Conservatives did this to themselves for the most part. I think the Conservatives were voted in to do a particular job. I think they failed to do it. I think immigration has always been near the top. And they had over a decade of Tory rule, and it just got worse. Then what they did, I think, and it doesn't matter what people think, my personal opinion is what they did to Boris Johnson was the death of the Conservative Party. I think the people gave him an 80-seat majority. I'm not saying that he didn't make mistakes or things, but I think they didn't vote in Rishi. They didn't vote in Liz Truss. These are not the people that won the Red Wall. And so I think what we're seeing in the Tory Party is part of the Tory Party failure.
And let me ask you something then that actually Tommy Robinson said to me, sitting in that chair over there.
This one?
Yeah, that very chair. He said, multiculturalism didn't fail, Islam did.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I'll be honest. It's not about multiculturalism, because if you talk about it depends what you mean. We can have multiple cultures living in this country, getting on perfectly well, right? We do, for the most part, have multiple cultures in this country. Two, we have a combination of, again, everything with me is complicated, nothing ever simple. There are factors that are taking off, that are playing off against each other. The rise of the identity politics and all this playing in at the same time as creating toxic battles on the streets. But where I disagree is multiculturalism, the idea of this, that I don't buy into. I think we are essentially pack animals, right? Essentially, at our core. And I think we often forget that we, as human beings, we're also just animals. And we have certain things about us that are inbuilt into us for natural reasons. I do believe we're pack animals. I think we adhere to a pack. We like to be part of a pack. So I'm very much in favour of nation states. Right? For example, it makes me a nationalist. I believe that the way forward is to have nation states with particular identities. And the idea that multiculturalism, I don't really buy into it. I think there should be a dominant culture inside the nation state. And I think people inside this nation state should be taught to wave a flag. You can address the problems of extreme nationalism in the schools whilst also teaching your children to wave a flag. One of the failures of the West as well was to understand the proper lessons of World War II, because we started to see nationalism as a great evil, which it absolutely isn't.
So you're saying it's not the nationalism that is harmful, it's what can happen from within it that is harmful but can be guarded against, whereas on the other side of the equation, it can't be. You think without that unified dominant identity, there isn't really a nation left, there isn't really a culture left.
You put it far better than I did, but that's exactly the point. Once it starts to break down, you lose control, and you become what's going to take place here. And why are you talking about alliances on the left, where you're dealing with extreme cultures that have for some reason joined together? This idea that we can stand there with these trans activists standing next to Islamists that would happily throw them off walls, is because they both want the overthrow of, they both want revolution. The left naively thinks that it will be able to manage, and it won't. It will be eaten alive by the Islamists, because the Islamists they are a force to be reckoned with. They have a culture that does not budge. It's the word, and there's no arguing with it. There's no debate. There's no negotiations. All there is. And whereas, and this is one of the sad parts of specifically Arabic culture, Whereas in our society, we're used to, for the most part, cream rising to the top. We are, we're a meritocracy. We believe that somebody who is very good, someone who has these skills, someone will rise to the top for whatever reason. And I don't know exactly what it is. In the Arab world, the opposite tends to be true. And when we look at the leaders that they seem to generate, or the leaders that seem to gain power, whether it's just because they're the ones with the biggest elbows who are the most ruthless, it's also a possibility.